Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is 5:30 on a Tuesday morning. No, it's not. It's Wednesday. Goodness, I lost it. It's Wednesday. I am recording this. I'm going to spritz my watercolor so that they're nice and juicy later on. I want to make sure that I just have to tap into it to get paint on my brush. I don't want to have to scrub with my brush. It is 5:30 in the morning. That is when we draw a toy from the toy box, a random object from the Random Object Randomogrifier. Today's random object is a Velociraptor. Whoa, hang on, I have a carrot showing. Let's fix that. Carrots. There we go. There we go. It's a Velociraptor. That music is really loud. Let me fix that real quick too. The problem is I turn the volume up to edit video after the fact. Hey Ivy! I turn the volume up to edit video after the fact, and then I forget to turn the volume back down. And even if I remember to turn the volume back down, I don't remember to turn it down enough to not be distracting. So today's random object from the Random Object Randomogrifier is a Velociraptor. So I'm going to do a little composition here. I want to make sure that the Velociraptor fits onto the page where I want the Velociraptor to fit onto the page. And that I have room for him. Right. My mom says the music is still loud. There's a bit of a lag. There's a bit of a lag. How to fix that because I can't do it in real time, but put some anchor points in here so that we can see where things are supposed to be, like that muscle on that leg. I want to make sure I get that muscle on that leg right there, and I want to make sure I get that paw right there. Yeah, and he's tall. Ivy says that he's tall. So that's a challenge, and she's right. The fact that he's tall and long means he's got to fit into the whole area here. He's got a paw that comes out over here. He's got a head that comes up over here. Neck. Back. And then that leg comes right into there. So I mean, you've got to make sure that when you put this stuff in place that you make all of your anchor points where they should be, so that you don't run out of room. That's a common thing, and it was always hard for me drawing before, because it was always, I would start this really nice drawing and I would be really proud of it, and then I would just run out of canvas. And if that happens to you often, check your composition. Check your composition phase. Make sure that you're putting things on the you're sketching things onto the paper where you think they should go, so that you can make sure you have room for them. Velociraptors are from the late Cretaceous, about 70 million years ago. Made famous, of course, by Jurassic Park. They were famous before that, but honestly, nobody cared before Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park kind of sparked a renaissance in dinosaur interest. There were my mom says it in the chat room. He reminds me every day there's a lag. But they spark kind of a renaissance in dinosaur interest because it's like every time a movie comes out, there's a surge in museum attendance. So Velociraptors have been very popular in the movies. Even in movies that weren't Jurassic Park related, you end up with your Velociraptors being the protagonist, antagonist, if you will. It's because they're the ones that they're supposed to be super smart because they have the brain cavity to body mass ratio that gives them a very large critical thinking area. So they're considered to be very intelligent. But you know, they laugh, the scientists, when they talk about how intelligent they are, they laugh about Neil Tyson deGrasse especially. Well, they were smart, but they weren't smart enough to open doors. Yeah, except all the doors in Jurassic Park open with levers that push down when you push on top of them. Cats and toddlers open those doors all the time. I had kids wander the street. I had to go find my kids wandering the street because the doors open with a handle that pushed down. I had to change all of the handles so that my kids couldn't just go out, my toddlers couldn't just go out and wander the street. So it's not really about figuring out how doors work. It's about figuring out how to take advantage of the opportunity. And they were certainly smart enough to figure that out. They also have this reputation of being narrow and snake looking, like they're snaky and very reptilian. And the problem with that is that they didn't bother to flesh out the skeleton the first time they built one, and that look has stuck. And it's not accurate any more than the 70s models with their legs out to the side is accurate. It's not an accurate model. They basically just took the skeleton and draped skin across it. And animals don't look like that. These animals didn't look like that. Modern animals don't look like that. They have fat, and they have muscles, and they have wattles hanging underneath their chin. They have all kinds of stuff that nobody considered important. My mom asked in my ear how tall they are. They're about the size of large turkeys. In the movie, they were made huge. In the Jurassic Park movies, they're made huge and terrifying because, you know, you have to have big dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are supposed to be big, right? So you have to have big dinosaurs or they won't be scary. And I think a big chunk of that was just what the producers expected to see. I don't think they really checked with the audience to see if the audience would accept a life-sized, normal-sized Velociraptor. And what I'm getting at is the producers got around and said, you know, they had Robert Bacher and Jack Horner on set with them, giving them. Jack Horner and Robert Bacher are very famous paleontologists in the paleontologist world. You know, but they have those two guys sitting around on set, giving them background information about what the Velociraptors look like and how they acted and how big they were and all that jazz. But the producers made the executive decision that nobody would be afraid of a turkey, right? And they even make the comment. The comment's even made in the book and in the movie. There's the obnoxious kid at the dig site in the opening of the movie that says, "Yeah, but nobody's going to be afraid of a turkey." And that's when our protagonist, paleontologist, points out that this turkey has this claw, and he sneaks up on you, and while you're looking at him, his friend comes over, slashes your throat. You know, makes it all kinds of violent to intimidate the kid, so that he has respect for the murder turkey. But as much fun as they had adding that scene to the movie, it's like they didn't feel like it would actually be scary enough to have a murder turkey, so they didn't actually use Velociraptors. They actually used Deinonychus. Deinonychus is similar to a Velociraptor. It's found in Montana, Wyoming, Oklahoma. But they used the Deinonychus dinosaur and called it a Velociraptor. Velociraptors are found in Mongolia, not Montana. Not where their dig site was in the movie. So, like I said, they didn't think that people would respect a murder turkey. But the people who think that you can't be afraid of something like this have never been chased by a cobra chicken in the park. You know? Yeah, the park I grew up in, the park I grew up near, Shannon Springs Park in Chickasha, Oklahoma, had geese that people were terrified of. People are terrified of geese all over the world. They're angry. They chase you. Cassowaries, these things are actual dinosaurs. Cassowaries, look them up. They're birds in Australia. They actually kill people. There was a dinosaur. There was one of the. There was in 1926, there was a person killed by a cassowary in Australia, and in 2019, there was a person killed in Florida by a cassowary, by his pet cassowary. Cassowaries attack about 200 people a year. In 2025, a man was taken to the hospital in Australia because he came out in his backyard, and there was a cassowary in his backyard, and the thing attacked him. And they're feathered and fluffy, and they're pretty, except they have that, you can see they have murder in their eyes. You know, emus went to war with the Australians and won. I don't know if that says more about emus or more about Australians, but there's still talk of the Great Emu War in Australia. The emus won because they're vicious. And they don't care. See what I did there? I pushed the brush down so it would spread out and then lifted it up real quick so I could get that shape. That is one of my favorite ways to get quick shapes on a page. Use the brush. Use the brush to make the shapes you want. What did velociraptors eat? Velociraptors are carnivores. They hunted and killed smaller dinosaurs. They ate eggs. Their name means fast thief. So, what was that? Where was I? You know, these little murder chickens, murder turkeys can be quite scary. You don't really have to modify the fear of this. You can just run on the fact that it is quite the vicious animal. And if you had three or four turkeys attacking you, you might be just a little bit intimidated by them things. If these things are intent on knocking you down and eating you, I would absolutely be, a little nervous. If it was just one, you just kick it in the head and walk off. It's just a turkey, but it's not. They're hunting in packs, 2 or 3, 3 or 4, and then once you're down here, they all come running. That's enough to intimidate me. I've been chased by the geese. That's why there's a joke that says that's why Canadians are nice, is because they channel all their anger into their geese. Alright, let's get his shadow on the ground. Actually, I need this darker also. Alright, let's get his shadow on the ground. There's not a whole lot. He's a gray character, so there's not a whole lot to do with his color. They have found in the fossil record, they have found quill nubs in their skin texture. So they're feathered. And again, the producers knew this. In Jurassic Park, the producers knew this. This is not new information. This was information they had at the time of making. And they still decided to make him this skeleton with the skin draped on it. Because their understanding was that this is what people expected to see. And I think what they neglected to understand was there are for every one average, what's the word I'm looking for here? Casual, for every one casual dinosaur fan there is out there, there are 6 dozen 12-year-olds running around with Jack Horner's book going, but in the book it said, just like in the movie, that one kid, but in your book you say that blah 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 blah, but this other guy, Robert Bacher, because 12-year-olds are that way, and I was that 12-year-old. But for every one casual adult fan, there are 6 dozen kids like my son, like me, and like my Well, you know what? All 4 of my kids were this way. Watching documentaries about dinosaurs in preparation of going to see the movie. So they could easily have represented them as murder turkeys and gotten away with it. And the kids would have been satisfied by the time the parents saw how vicious, by the time the casual dinosaur fans saw how vicious the murder turkeys were, they also would have been okay with it, especially if they had referenced cassowaries. How are we doing on time? Oh, it's 5:51 already. Goodness. I'm not satisfied that this leg should be a little bit darker on this side. There we go. Get us a nice little indigo. Probably should have gone with a little bit of green too. Get us a nice little indigo. That leg should be a little darker on that side. Because then this needs to be darker here. Because that's what you have to do to move it to the front. You have to have it in perspective to move it to the front. You have to leave room for the reflected light. Without the reflected light, it doesn't look round. Alright, let me dry this real quick and we'll ink it. It probably could have been over a little bit more. Let me dry this real quick. Really loud through this microphone, I know. There's a setting I have to figure out to make the new microphone not pick up the hair dryer. Yeah, I know Ivy's in the chat saying that she's here for the paint drying. I am fully aware. Nobody really wants to hear or see me talk. You're just down for the paint drying. I'm going to have to start putting sunglasses on so that red light doesn't blind me. If you use ink when you do illustrations, there's a neat trick that I like where you can adjust your lines by either moving to the inside or the outside of an old line to shift it into a direction you want it to go. So that's what I'm going to do. In some of these places I'm going to move some of this over this way a little bit, and I'm going to move some of this on the inside over here, and I'm going to add weight in some areas real quick. But I mentioned that the Jurassic Park movies cause a renaissance of interest in museum attendance, and it's interesting because there's a museum that documented this in the Martinsville Natural History Museum in Virginia had 4 times increase in their annual visitation on the weekend that Jurassic Park came out. 4 times what they normally get. They normally get 18 or something. They got like 72 visitors that day, and they're not the only ones. The Houston Museum of Natural Science put on they have a little movie theater in there where they show documentaries, and the Houston Museum put, what was the name of it? Dinosaur Discoveries. And the Houston Museum, when they announced their Dinosaur Discoveries movie, if you will, had a 31% increase in visitation. Dinosaurs bring people out. People love to go see dinosaur stuff. So that is why there are 500 Jurassic Park movies, and that is why they don't even bother with accuracy, because they know that gives the 12-year-old something to argue about. Because now they're talking about it, right? My mother lost her sound. My microphone still shows to be working. I don't know how you lost your sound. I don't know what I can do. I hope that that your speaker came undone. Let's add some details in here, because he's got some texture that I didn't really spend much time on. How much time do we have? We have just a couple of minutes. I can add some texture to him in here. If you turn your pen sideways, you can get some really thin marks. See, his skin's all wrinkly like an elephant, because that's what they thought. That's what they thought dinosaurs were like. And that's what the producers in the movie thought people expected to see. And so that's what you got. Can't talk, Artie. But that's what the producers thought. That's what the producers. They didn't even test it with the crowds. They just said this is what we expect to see, and so that's what you got. And then in the second and third movies, you start seeing more realistic dinosaurs. You start seeing dinosaurs with feathers. You start seeing dinosaurs with fat and wattles and stuff hanging down. Because they got the 12-year-olds involved, and the 12-year-olds go like, hey, this is supposed to have feathers. So this is my rendition compared to the photograph. Let's see what it looks like compared to my perspective. Hang on, I gotta figure out a better way to do this, so that it's not me clutching my nipples on camera, trying to turn a camera off, trying to turn a microphone off. That's a whole different, you can see that on my Only Bikers page. Alright, let's see it here from my perspective. There we go. That is what I did this morning. That is my illustration. That is our talk about dinosaurs this morning. I hope you've enjoyed it. Tomorrow, the little girl has already picked out an egg for us. Let's see what we've got here. We have, dun dun dun, it's a bug. It is a praying mantis. I am really glad we didn't have that on Tuesday. There's lots and lots and lots of little shapes involved on that. So this is what we're going to do tomorrow. If you're watching this at before 5:30 on Thursday morning, July the 10th, then you're watching the trailer and we're about to draw this. So stick around and we'll get started on it. But for now, it is Wednesday morning and it is 6 o'clock, so I need to wrap this up. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. You know I look forward to it every morning when I get to come down here and I get to art with my besties. Check out Ivy's channel. Ivy was sitting fireside yesterday doing a stream. She normally goes till 5 o'clock on Tuesdays, and then she'll do it again. Well, I think it's Friday she does it again, where she has her Friday she does her own coloring book, and on Tuesday she does a fantasy coloring book, and she sits there with her colored pencils and talks about how she mixes her colors and her choices. It's a fun time, especially with the fire and the bugs, and she makes shadow puppets with the Wolverine pencils. Check her out. It's quite fun. But thank you so much for joining me. I will see you tomorrow. Same Artistic Biker time, same Artistic Biker channel, and then we dance. We dance until somebody says they see me dancing, because once they see me dancing, then I know that it's time to take my mic off, and I know that the lag has caught up with the stream, and I know that I don't have to worry about being cut